In this riveting urban fantasy tale, our protagonist navigates through extraordinary circumstances at a high school unlike any other. Hell High. The story begins with a tense yet playful conversation between the main character and Charlotte, a captivating succubus, as they prepare to embark on a critical mission masquerading as twins at a new school. Charlotte, displaying her supernatural abilities, effortlessly alters her appearance with a simple pair of glasses, emphasizing the disparity between their true identities and their fabricated siblinghood. Underlying this mission is a deeper purpose, one that involves life or death consequences, as hinted by Charlotte. The narrative weaves a complex web of relationships and hidden agendas, including the protagonist's unrequited love for Charlotte, whose emotional distance only intensifies after encounters with powerful entities like Satan. As the plot unfolds, readers are introduced to the protagonist's enrollment in an unusual wrestling team, coached by a formidable figure, Mr. Helsig, who pushes him to physical extremes to prepare for an upcoming tournament. This segment highlights the protagonist's resilience and determination amidst the supernatural chaos surrounding him. Interspersed with moments of action and supernatural showdowns, the novel also explores the dynamics between various mythical creatures, such as werewolves and vampires, adding layers of intrigue and conflict. A pivotal scene features a brutal confrontation between Charlotte and a powerful werewolf, Dr. King, underscoring the high stakes of their mission and the vulnerability of even the most potent beings. Emotional depth is found in the complex relationship between the protagonist and Charlotte, especially in a heated exchange where Charlotte questions the authenticity of his feelings, followed by a passionate yet tumultuous kiss. This interaction encapsulates the volatile blend of affection and frustration that defines their bond. Ultimately, the novel leaves readers with a cliffhanger, teasing the continuation of Sherman's escapades in the subsequent installment, Vampire. Hell High Book 4. The story promises further exploration into Sherman's role in the supernatural underworld, his blossoming abilities, and the unresolved romantic tension with Charlotte, all set against the backdrop of a school that is anything but ordinary. With its blend of humor, action, romance, and supernatural elements, the novel invites readers into a fantastical realm where the line between love and danger is precariously thin. Chapter 1. Do you have your class schedule? Charlotte asked a second after she parked our car in front of the high school. Yes, I answered. And you've got your lunch and your books? She asked. Charlotte, I've been to school before. I'm actually a saini. Yes, but this is different. We are on a mission now. If you mess up it could mean death. Death? I asked and my voice squeaked a bit. Well, for you maybe. I'm hard to kill. She smirked at me a bit and I guessed that she was joking. I just don't see how this is going to work, I said as she pulled her purple backpack from the back seat of the car. What do you mean? See, we don't really look like siblings, let alone twins. Oh, I have that figured out. Succubi are masters of disguise. We can look like almost any mortal woman. Watch. Charlotte reached into the small pocket of her pack, pulled out a pair of thick-rimmed black glasses that looked a lot like mine and put them on her face. She looked at me with her eyebrows raised. You look exactly the same just with glasses on, I said to the beautiful girl. No, she pulled down the driver's side visor and double-checked the mirror. I look totally different. Putting on glasses doesn't make you look that different, I sighed. It worked for Bruce Kent. She shrugged and flipped the visor closed. Who? I asked. Bruce Kent, the Superbat character in that movie. She looked at me with confusion. Clark Kent is Superman. Bruce Wayne is Batman, I clarified. Oh right, anyways. I do appear different, you can't tell because of your magic. I guess that makes sense, but why do we have to be siblings, couldn't we? Like, I dunno, not be siblings and go to this new school at the same time. Maybe it was a selfish question. I had kind of hoped that I could use this mission to get a little closer to the girl I loved. She had been distant since our last meeting with Satan, and she hadn't even wanted to talk that much during our trip to this city. How would we explain living together? Let's go or we'll be late. We still have to go to the office. Charlotte opened the door and stepped out of the car. I grabbed my new backpack, opened my door, and jumped out of the car to follow her. The vehicle was a brand new cream-colored Volkswagen Jetta sedan. It was completely inconspicuous in the school parking lot, and we had driven it almost halfway across the USA over the last few days. How are they going to know that we are registered? I whispered to the succubus as we walked past some angel boys and girls praying around the flagpole in front of the school. It's already been taken care of. She shrugged and pointed at the first building behind the gates of the campus. The sign said school office and the area was clear of any other students. The inside of the office was similar to the setup of my old school. There was a central bullpen area surrounded by a wooden counter. Inside of the bullpen sat a cluster of low cubicle walls and half a dozen women of various monster races working at their computers. On the far side of the room were a bunch of windows and 2 large doors that led to the campus quad area. You couldn't actually enter the campus without someone inside the bullpen swinging open the wooden door on the side of the pen. "Can I help you?" the woman at the front counter asked. She looked like a skinny dwarf and had a high-pitched voice. I guess she was a gnome. "We are new students. Charlotte and Sherman Grandier," Charlotte said as we leaned against the counter. "Oh yes, of course. We are excited to hear about your arrival. Your parents said they couldn't be here to check you in, but I can get the process started now so you can get to first period. It has been a long time since we've had twins at the school. You both look so alike." The woman nodded between us and smiled even wider. "I'll take a look at the paperwork. My parents tell me I'm the responsible one," Charlotte said as she leaned over the files that the clerk set on the table. My phone rang and I almost jumped with surprise. Charlotte and the school clerk ignored me, so I stepped away from the counter to fish my phone out of my pocket. The caller ID said, "Satan, Lord of Evil and Master of Hell." Couldn't remember typing his info into my phone. I didn't even know Satan had a cell phone, and the sight of his name on the device made me gasp with a flurry of terrified emotions. "Hello? Satan?" I asked as I picked it up. "Hey Sherman." The ruler of demons' surprisingly friendly voice came across my phone with amazing clarity. "Do you know who James Bond is?" he asked. Yeah, I said. "Good. You've seen the movies then?" he asked. "Yeah, they're cool." So when James Bond is on a special assignment deep undercover with enemies and hot women all around him and M calls him on the phone, does James Bond say, "Oh hello M. Top of the morning to you. How can I serve the Queen today?" The Lord of Evil's voice sounded surprisingly British all of a sudden. "No, I don't think he would. 'Cause it is all sorts of dumb, right? Would totally blow his cover, wouldn't it?" "Yeah it. So are you picking up what I am putting down, Sherman? You're a secret agent. Now, you can't be answering the phone and saying my name. It's going to blow your cover and probably get you all deader than Osama bin Laden making an appearance at an NYPD benefit dinner." "Oh, yeah. I felt my stomach drop with my mistake. I'm sorry. That was dumb." Sherman. I only badger you because I care so much," the Lord of Hell said. "Wow, thanks The Demon King interrupted me. "How was your drive?" "It was good," I said. "And the new place?" he asked. "You getting along with Charlotte okay?" "The apartment is fine. We just got here last night. I've got my own bathroom dash." "Have you found the target yet?" he interrupted me. "Oh no. We just got here. Checking in now. Then it will be first period. Think I have geology class." "Okay. Remember the plan. There is a powerful alpha here. You have to identify him and then find a vamp to take the heat for the kill. Gonna be easy. Call me tonight after you finish the job." "But I don't think we are going to be able to get it done in one day." "Well, you definitely won't with that attitude. Sherman, have you ever heard of positive affirmations?" Satan sighed. "What is that?" "Every morning when you wake up you go to the mirror and you tell yourself that you are handsome and strong and ready to take on the world. Tell yourself you are a real go-getter. It will do wonders for your productivity. Anyhow, I need to run. All this talk about Osama reminds me I have to go torture him. Call me tonight after you take care of this werewolf. Toodles." The line went dead and I put my phone back in my pocket. I caught Charlotte glancing over at me and she made a small gesture for me to join her at the counter. I followed her instruction and caught the tail end of the office clerk explaining the map of the school. "You and Stewart will be in the science building for the first period. Then he'll have PE for his second period, but you'll have economics," the gnome said to Charlotte as she pointed to a large building on the map. "PE?" I asked. The gym teacher at my old school and I had an understanding I wasn't going to be doing any exercises and he wasn't going to bother acknowledging that I existed. The thought of establishing a relationship with another teacher wasn't that appealing. "Yep. We are very fortunate here at Oak Grove High School. Our wild wolves are 10-time state champions at wrestling, and we have our esteemed kinesiology teacher Dr. Mario King to thank. You'll actually be in his class. The gnome's smile was infectious, and I realized I was smiling through the churning in my stomach. That sounds, I began to say, but the happy gnome interrupted me. Wonderful. I know. We have the best physical program in the Tri-County area. All of our students are required to participate in a sport. What? Both Charlotte and I said. Don't worry. We believe that every student is naturally gifted at one or more sport. Dr. King or his assistant Mr. Helsig, who you actually have next, are very good at identifying which sport will be the best fit for you. Unless you already have a sport that you play. The woman looked at me kind of winced, and then glanced at Charlotte with a wide smile. What time does first period start? 8. Charlotte said as she pointed at the clock. I was thankful that she changed the subject. The succubus was an amazing warrior woman, and I knew that she would perform well at whatever sport she wanted to play, but I was only good at video games and reading comic books. They didn't have sports for that. Oh yes. Do you need a student aide to take you to class? We can figure it out, Charlotte said as she waved the map in the air. The gnome woman jumped off her stool and then walked over to the short doorway that opened the lobby of the office to the back part of the bullpen. Charlotte and I walked through the doorway into the hallway by the bullpen and then out the exit door into the quad of the high school. It is the farthest building, I think, the succubus said as she tilted the map around in her hands. Let me see. All the video game playing gives me a bonus to my map reading skill, I said as I looked at the piece of paper she held. You are right. Is the far one. We walked across the quad and toward the last 3-story building in a row. The dossier that Satan had given us said that there were close to 2,300 students at this school, and they all seemed to be trying to rush to their first period class at the same time. Unlike my old school, Oak Grove High didn't have school uniforms, and the differences of attire, hairstyles, and races made the rush seem like a multicolored monster avalanche. Charlotte pushed through the crowd and pulled me along behind her. We finally made it to the science building, and we climbed the stairs to the second story. The classroom door was opened, and I followed Charlotte inside. The succubus skidded to a stop a few steps inside of the room, and I collided with her wings when I was a bit too slow to stop myself. I had been distracted by the other students in the classroom. They were all sitting at attention in their desk chairs, facing forward with eyes on the whiteboard hanging at the front of the room. Fresh meat! A voice shouted with an intensity that made my stomach drop. I poked my head out from behind Charlotte's purple wings and saw the teacher leap from his desk, do a front flip, and then land between the aisles of desks, only a few feet in front of us. Then the man stood from his crouched landing, flexed biceps that were the size of my chest, and tore his white dress shirt off to expose an over-muscled bare chest. Can you feel the power of the earth stones come up from the ground? He shouted as he flexed his muscles. They seemed to kind of dance through the places his shirt still covered, and thousands of veins popped to the surface of his light green-colored skin. The man stood probably 6.5 feet tall, and he was nearly the same width. He had a pair of tusks jutting out from the bottom of his jaw, a long mane of curly dark hair flowing over his shoulders, and a face painted like an Indian warrior. Mr. Helsig was an orc. The students sitting around us didn't turn their attention away from the whiteboard. I would have thought that someone would have made a joke or snickered at the teacher's strange display, but no one moved, and a thick silence descended the classroom after the orc yelled his question. Yes, Charlotte answered. Yes. He slammed his fists against his chest and then raised his hands in the air. That's because the magnetic field extends from the Earth's interior into space. When it gets there, it meets a powerful solar wind. These are ultimate particles charged with the strength of the sun. This charges the particles and creates the poles. The tag team duo of Earth and Sun are undefeatable in combat. He growled the last part out as if he was threatening us, and I felt my heart begin to race. The orc turned his gaze from the ceiling of the classroom and then fixed his eyes on both of us. It was obvious to me that he was about to pummel us, and I noticed Charlotte drop her hands a bit to ready herself for a fight. State your names to the gods of Earth and Sun, the orc demanded. I'm Charlotte, and this is my brother Sherman, the succubus said as she pointed her thumb back to me. I realized that I was actually cowering behind the beautiful winged girl, and I shuffled to the side a bit so that I could jump to defend her if I needed to. The heavens have opened up from above, and the sun god has spoken to the earth god about delivering you into our classroom. We are the undefeated home room of the school. None shall stand in our way. He flexed his muscles again and raised his hands to the sky. Now, sister and brother, daughter and son, are you prepared to learn about the path of the righteous? Are you prepared to defend your classmates against all known enemies until the death of your very soul? Are you prepared to cram your minds full of the wonders of the earth God so that you reach an enlightenment and physical peak that is only known to the ancient heroes that once walked on this earth and slew their enemies with the strength of their spirits and the power of their muscles? Are you prepared for class to begin? He pointed a giant finger at me as he finished speaking, and my vision started to spin a little. I'd never been called out like this in class, and I could feel every sitting student finally turn from the front of the room to look at me. Yes, I squeaked through my panic. I half expected the classroom to erupt with mocking laughter, but none of the watching students said anything. I like your powerful spirit, Sherman, he bellowed. If I had to give you a totem animal, it would be a meteor that slams into the oceans of the earth, vaporizing them, and turning the globe into an uninhabitable world of single-cell organisms. This is the strength you wield, Sherman. Can you and your sister please take your seats? I nodded at the strange man and then moved with Charlotte to the back of the class where there were 2 empty desks. She took the seat in front of me, and I sat behind her with my back to the wall. It was our usual seating arrangement, and I prepared myself for another boring lecture about a topic I already knew a lot about. The bell rang and Mr. Helsig closed the door to the classroom with a mighty grunt. When the fires and lava ascended from the cores of the earth with unhinged vengeance, after their righteous fury has cooled, they can dwell within bodies of water, weather the unholy powers of erosion and settle into place. The gods call this sedimentation, and like the mighty eagle of battle, it shows how far one can travel to kill your prey. Mr. Helsig vaulted over his desk with a handspring and then crouched behind it to hide. I looked around at my new classmates, but none of them seemed surprised by his actions. A minute passed, and I almost asked the frog-looking boy sitting next to me if this was a common occurrence, but the teacher suddenly sprang up on top of his desk. He was completely shirtless now and held a 3-foot diameter egg-shaped rock in his hands. Geodes are formed when the gas bubbles inside of the hot molten lava rocks get deposits of minerals. Sometimes instead of gas bubbles, these deposits can develop instead with a partial filling of minerals from water. It is the beauty and power of the earth god's sedimentation. He jumped off the table with a double front flip and then landed at the front of the class. Then he raised the large egg rock over his head as if he was doing some sort of powerlifting movement. Now you will see the power of the earth god. The heavens will open up and reveal all the colors and majesty to you. We are not fit to understand all this glory, but my students, we will try. The class actually gasped as Mr. Helsig smashed the rock down on top of his head with a mighty battle shout. The rock or his skull made a loud cracking sound, and I almost thought that he had actually broken open his noggin. The egg broke in half cleanly and then fell to each side of the supermuscular orc. He moved both of his arms to his sides without looking, and both halves of the egg rock landed into each of his palms as if he had done this movement 1,000 times. I had seen geodes before. They were like small crystals that filled the inside of rocks. They kind of sparkled like glitter, and they came in all sorts of colors. This particular rock was one of the largest I had ever seen, and the inside crystals were a magnificent array of rainbow hues with an almost electric shine. Pass this around so that each of you can feel the power of the earth god. Mr. Helsig handed one half to an angel boy sitting in the front row, and the other half to a Naga girl on the other side of the room. Stop, he commanded the Naga girl as she was about to pass the half of the rainbow geode behind her to the next student. The girl froze in her movements and blinked her reptilian eyes at the massive orc. You must spend some time and feel the power of the earth. That wasn't nearly long enough. His voice was just a whisper, and the whole class seemed to lean forward so that we could all hear him speak to the snake girl. Oh, sorry, she said. Don't apologize to me, little one. Apologize to the gods of life and destruction. Even now they wonder if you feel their power through their avatar. Do you feel it? He kind of screamed his question as he pointed at the poor girl. A dribble of blood emerged from his hairline, descended between his eyes and began to drip from his wide nose. Yes, I do. She nodded quickly as she clutched the half-egg to her chest. Yes, you have evolved with the gift of lava, smite and power. Feel it. The orc raised his hands up into the air and gestured the rest of us to follow his movement. Mr. Helsig let out a long growl when the rest of the class didn't follow his example, and the entire class growled in echo while we raised our arms to the ceiling. This is the best class I've ever had, Charlotte whispered to me over her shoulder. And I hate Chapter 2. Was he the werewolf? Charlotte asked as soon as the class ended, and we had walked away from the doorway of the room. No, I think he was an orc. Lots of muscles and greenish skin, I replied. Oh, okay. Did you notice anything weird about him? She looked around to make sure no one was listening to us, but the other students walking by were involved in their own conversations. Besides him being a little crazy? He remembered your name, she said with a frown. Huh, yeah, that happens sometimes. Satan knew my name, I said with a shrug. That is Satan. This is just some orc teacher. Charlotte looked thoughtful. One of the guidance counselors at our old school would call me by my correct name sometimes. It happens. Okay, but I get the feeling there is something weird going on at this school, she said as she looked around again. Something weird about this school? What do you mean? I asked as I looked at the hundreds of monster students that flowed like water through the open space of the quad. I can't put my finger on it. Something is off. I dunno. This is my first mission with a partner. Could just be that. She smiled at me a bit and I felt my heart flutter in my chest. I had missed her smile so much. What class do you have next? She asked before I could speak again. P. Oh, that's right. She glanced down at my body and smiled again. I'm sure you'll do fine. I don't think we have another class together for the rest of the day, she said as she pulled out the paper slip that had her schedule on. No, we don't. Do you want to have lunch together? I felt my pulse quicken as I asked her. Of course, silly. She smirked at me. I don't know anyone else here. Yeah, I said as I scratched the back of my head. Sorry, Sherman. That came out wrong. I want to have lunch with you. Not just because I don't know anyone else, but because, well, the school bell rang. And the kids walking through the quad suddenly picked up their pace. Some even started running. Shit, we need to get to class, she said. I'm actually on the other side of the school. It might take me a few minutes to get there. Keep your eyes out for the target, be safe, and I'll see you at lunch. Okay. Got it. Thanks, Charlotte, I said. The beautiful girl's eyes were purple again, probably because we weren't in hell anymore, and she fluttered her long eyelashes at me for a second before she turned to walk away. As I watched her leave, I realized that I had forgotten to tell her that Satan expected us to have the mission completed tonight. The task sounded next to impossible since we didn't even know who the target was, but maybe Charlotte would have some ideas at lunch. The P classroom was on the side of the gym building, and that building was on the far north side of campus. I realized that I was probably going to be late to class if I didn't run, so I pulled my pack into my back and did my best to sprint across the quad. I had to go across one of the service streets, up a flight of stairs, and then circumnavigate the building before I found the entrance to the classroom. Dang, I really hated P. I thought about all my past education classes and my lack of physical strength. I didn't want to be weak, but I had no real idea how to get stronger. I guess one was supposed to work out, but I couldn't even do a pull up. I had to do push-ups on my knees, and running made my chest hurt really bad. Meanwhile, video games were super fun and didn't cause me any pain. Wasn't looking forward to this, but I'd probably be able to get a pass after. The teacher saw just how terrible I was at everything. The classroom kind of surprised me. It actually had desks in it and a chalkboard on one wall. One side of the room was one of those roller walls that could expand out to hide the main part of the gymnasium, and there was a bunch of athletic equipment stacked up in the room. But other than the dodge balls and jump ropes, it looked like the geology class I had just left. A quick count gave me 24 students, and they all turned to me when I walked in. They were a mishmash of races, but I actually saw 2 angels in the group. All the students were wearing their gym outfits and I realized that I hadn't been given any when I checked in. Sit down, a drow girl whispered urgently to me as she pointed at the empty desk next to her. I followed her orders and then put my book bag under my desk. Then I realized that all the other students had a notebook and pencil ready, so I pulled mine out as quickly as I could. I didn't see the teacher yet, but I remembered that the office clerk had told us that it was a Dr. King. The bell rang across the campus and the kids around me sat up at attention. The atmosphere reminded me a bit of my geology class and I remembered that the office clerk had said that both of these teachers were the school's wrestling coaches. The side door by the piles of equipment opened, and Dr. King stepped into the classroom. I gasped and knew for certain that this was the powerful alpha wolf that Satan had told me about. I also gasped because it was the largest werewolf I had ever seen. Dr. King must have stood some 7 feet tall. His muscles seemed to have muscles on top of the muscles, and his clawed hands were easily the size of my head. The werewolf wore a tie-dye shirt that looked 4 sizes too small for the man's expansive chest, tight yellow lycra pants with black knee pads, sunglasses that looked like they might have been ski goggles, and a silver whistle around his giant neck. Yeah, he said as he swaggered in through the door. The wolfman's shoulders were so wide, he had to turn sideways to fit out. Welcome to class. Today we are going to talk about building better bodies. Yeah, then we are going to go build those better bodies. Yeah, then we are going to come back in here and talk about how we built those better bodies. Oh yeah. The giant werewolf had a strange way of talking. He was kind of elongating all of his vowel sounds. The werewolf strutted around the room as he talked. Sometimes I saw these creatures look more like men with wolf features, but Dr. King's face looked almost entirely wolf-like, with a man body covered with fur. The gym teacher seemed to notice I was sitting in the classroom and he stopped his pacing. You look lost, like a baby duck without its mama. But I sense that you are really a chicken hawk, hunting for a chicken. Do birdies go quack when they are pretending to be ducks? The werewolf reached up to his sunglasses with his right hand as if he was going to take them off, but he just left his fingers touching them. I squeaked as my heart leapt into my chest. Was he hinting that he knew I was on a mission to kill him? You see, ducks can't fly like chickens and chickens can't fly like ducks. But when the ducks are swimming, the chickens are laying eggs and looking for corn. The hawks are out looking for a good time, though. What do you say to that? He kind of spit out the question as if he was squeezing the sentence out of his abdominal muscles. He wants you to wear your gym uniform, the drow girl sitting next to me whispered. It is my first day. I'm new. I don't have a gym uniform, I said with a wince. My voice sounded very unmanly, and I half expected everyone in my new class to laugh at me. They would have at my old school. Surprisingly, no one laughed or said anything to embarrass me, and Dr. King just nodded. That's what I thought. Yeah. Now hold on just a minute, he said as he went to his desk. There was a clipboard on top and it looked comically small in his giant hands. Sherman Grandier? He asked with a raised wolf eyebrow. Yes. That's a strong name. Fit for a mighty warrior. Yeah. A champion even if I do say so. Yeah. Now class, he said as he opened his thick arms to the rest of the students. We are going to be doing some leg exercises today. Gonna get real strong. Yeah. Now I'm gonna tell you right now that some of you aren't going to be able to do all of them, but that's okay. Molding our bodies into machines of great power isn't something that is done all willy-nilly. It takes time and discipline to make transformation possible. Yeah. Now when you step into the squared circle of life, there can be no showboating or hot dogging or grandstanding. Yeah. What it takes is positive life choices. The choice between making the try even though you think you might fail or staying out of the ring because you worry you might fail. Yeah. Everyone is going to have their own personal struggle with the fear, and this is aspect of life, so when you make the right choice, you don't need to be all hot dog about it. No. What you gotta do is help other people get to where you are, and then continue on the path of self-evolution and self-actualization by improving just a little every day. Oh yeah. When the werewolf finished talking, he glanced at me again and then flexed his arm muscles. I'm going to take Sherman to get his clothes, and you all are gonna get all warmed up with the mile run. Yeah. When we come back we will start the training. The students stood from their desks with one motion and then filed out the door. The giant werewolf gestured to me with a massive clawed finger, and I followed him back into his office. Chicken hawks can't be walking around dressed like ducks. Confuses everyone. You look like a size small. Am I right? He asked as he opened a closet door and started rummaging through a wood cabinet. Yes, that is fine, I said as I looked around the office. Every available space seemed to have a glittering wrestling trophy on it, and every inch of the wall had either a picture of Dr. King in wrestling attire or award ribbons. Since you're new at the school, I'm going to have to test your aptitude for sports. I already have a good guess, but why don't you put this on and then meet me outside of the gymnasium by the track? It's gonna be fun. Oh, yeah, the wolf said as he handed me a set of gym clothes. Thanks, but I'm not really good at sports. Never have been. I don't think you'll want me on any of your teams. At my last school, the teacher just let me sit and read because nothing means nothing. He interrupted me with a stare of his dark sunglasses. Nothing means nothing? I asked, and my voice squeaked a bit. You gonna be a nothing? Or are you gonna be the cream? The cream. It's going to rise to the top. Oh yeah, let me tell you something right now. Nothing means nothing, and the cream always rises. Maybe you've just never had someone tell you that you are the cream. Has anyone ever told you that they want your cream? It's because no one has told you that you can do it. You can be the cream. Sherman, you can rise to the top. You've just got to realize that it's gonna be hard work. The kind of work that makes you a man. I'm not talking about showboating or grandstanding work. I'm talking about the kind of work that a man does alone with nobody watching, to make sure that his cream rises to the top. Oh yeah. The wolfman pushed a clawed finger into the clothes I carried in my arms and then nodded to the door. Locker room is that way. Yours is number 888. I'll see you in the squared circle of life in a few minutes. We're gonna make sure that you stretch first. Oh yeah. I nodded to the giant werewolf and then walked out of the doorway across the classroom and into the room marked for boys. The place smelled surprisingly good for a locker room, and I found my locker a few feet by the door. Took me a minute to figure out how to reset the combination on the lock, but I was soon changed into the gym outfit and walking out into the area by the track. The air was a bit chilly, and I shivered a bit in my thin gym attire. The early morning fog was still lingering over the running track, and I only got the faint outline of the rest of the class making a lap on the far side. This had been my old school. I would have just walked back inside the gym to read one of my mangas. No one would have even cared. It seemed like Dr. King did care, and his interest was making me more than a little nervous. My heart dropped when I saw the giant wolf standing out by the track. His back was to me, but the werewolf seemed to have sensed that I had come out of the locker room even from 100 yards across stadium, and he turned to beckon. We are going to see what you're made of, Sherman. Oh yeah, I'm thinking that you are going to go all the way to the tippy top, just like the cream. I don't think you understand how. I'm gonna ask you a simple question. Dr. King's wolf face looked suddenly serious, and I wondered if he knew that Charlotte and I had been sent here to kill him. Yes. Do you want to be a champion? Champion? Oh yeah, I'm thinking that you've got it. You're fast. In here. He tapped his skull with a clawed finger. And in your bones. I also think you've got the juice in here. He tapped on his chest where his heart was. You just haven't had anyone tell you that they believe in you. Oh yeah, are you picking up what I am putting down? I have been a champion in video games. For the last 3 years I've dashed. But I'm talking about real life here, Sherman. I'm talking about wrestling. Wrestling? Oh yeah, kiddo. You've got the stuff. Now I want to see your push-up form. Can you give me 10 of them real quick like? I don't think I can actually. Do it now. He growled, and I felt my stomach spin with terror. I dropped to the black asphalt and tried to make a plank with my body. My back and stomach muscles started quivering almost instantly, and I did my best to lower myself to the ground without smashing my face. My nose came within a few inches of the asphalt, and then I pushed as hard as I possibly could through my shaking arms. I kind of leaned to the left for a second, and then I pushed harder with that arm and felt my heart start to gallop. A gasp of air left my lungs as soon as my elbows locked, and it felt like a torrent of lava was flowing through my entire body. 1. I lowered myself again, and it felt like my triceps were going to catapult. Free of my elbows. My breath escaped from my mouth with an unmanly whine, and I pushed as hard as I could with my quivering noodle arms. Nothing happened for what felt like an eternity, but then I slowly started to move away from the black pavement. 2. Yeah, that's the stuff. Can you squeeze that earth with your fingers? You gotta push through the pain if you want to be the duck that finds the cream and soars like an eagle into the tornado of darkness. Give me one more, but this time crush the land beneath your fingers. Oh yeah. Dr. King's voice was a low growl, and the tone made me think that I wouldn't be able to tell him no without having to pay a hefty price. I lowered myself again, and my arms were trembling in a way that made me think they had become a superhuman blur of motion. Or maybe it was just that my vision was starting to lose focus and I was having trouble seeing. His advice about squeezing the ground actually helped a bunch, but as soon as I hit the bottom of my movement, my arms locked up, and they just refused to move. Push up. Be the chicken hawk that confuses the ducks with its greatness. Oh, yeah. The giant werewolf smacked the ground next to me, and it sounded like a clap of thunder. The suddenness of the smack startled me, and I pushed out my arms with terror. Every single cell in my body was screaming in agony, and I felt as if my stomach was about to cave in on itself. 3. Get up. Now shake it out. Oh yeah, you did good, Sherman, the werewolf Jim coach said as he reached up to adjust his ski goggle sunglasses with his fingertips. I only did 3, I gasped after I stood on trembling legs. I kind of felt like I wanted to puke, but I forced the feeling down with a hard swallow. Still wasn't used to people remembering my name, but I was even less used to doing push-ups. You did. It was a sure sign of your athletic prowess. You've got the juice to make the cream. I am sure of it. But it was just 3, I said as my stomach spun. From the way he was talking, it sounded like the Wolfman was impressed. It was the way you did them. It isn't all about grandstanding or showboating, Sherman. You've got to be doing the things that need to be done when they need to be done, even when doing the doing isn't easy because it hurts when you do. Oh yeah, the squared circle isn't always fair, but it blesses those that try with all of their might. The man tapped on his wolf skull when he pointed, and then gave me what I prayed was a smile and not an "I'm gonna eat you" expression. It was hard to tell with this guy. I'm gonna need you to come back today after school for practice, Dr. King said as he turned to the running students in my class. I was guessing that they had just finished their 4th lap around the track, and if memory served me correctly, that was a mile. Practice? Practice for what? I squeaked. You are going to be on the wrestling team. We need someone in your weight class, and you've got the cream to rise to the top. I don't know anything about wrestling. I can't be on a team. I don't think that I can help you. The Wolfman raised a massive clawed hand toward me and then turned from the group of kids running toward us so that our eyes met. I really had to look up to see him, and I guess that he must have weighed 4 times what I did. I can understand your predicament. You don't know if you are good at something, and you get all the feelings of butterflies fighting in your stomach. I've been there. Oh yeah, sometimes you gotta face your inner man, and then ask him what he is made of. He might tell you something dumb like that he doesn't know something or that he can't do something. When that happens, you gotta grab him by the waist, throw him on the ground, and then pin him until the referee taps. Can you understand that the eaglehawk doesn't tell himself that he can't do it? You've gotta be the cream. So I'll see you here after school, and then we'll make some honey. Oh yeah. Okay. I sighed and then glanced over my shoulder back to the school. Dear King was making a big mistake asking me to join the team. I didn't want to let the Wolfman down, but I just wasn't good at sports, especially wrestling. But something about what the giant wolf said made me hopeful. If I learned how to wrestle, I'd probably get strong. Would I become strong enough to protect Charlotte if she needed me? I cared for her, and even though I didn't know what her exact feelings were for me, I knew that she'd spent all of our time together protecting me. I didn't think women were attracted to damsel boys in distress. What if I had muscles and could take care of myself? Would that help win her heart? Maybe it was worth a try. You've finished warming up your physical bodies for the trials ahead. Yeah. Now, can you fathom what might lie in store for you during the rest of the class period? Before you answer, think about the possibilities of a full body workout that can create the kind of environment that lets your brains and Bodies become tools of power that only the just can wield. Dr. King had a sing-song quality to the pace of his voice, and each word seemed to grow more intense than the previous. My new classmates looked at each other with a bit of confusion, and then I saw one of the angel girls raise her hand. Hey plus Kristen. What do you think? You said earlier that we would be building better bodies. Did you mean squats? Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Great job. The werewolf slapped his hands together with a series of thunderous claps, and the beautiful golden-haired girl blushed. Now we are going to go to the weight room. Yeah, we are going to go meet some iron. It will be a good friend. The weights don't make no promises that they can't keep when the going gets tough. No, they only give you what they have to give you when you have given all that you've got to give. Oh yeah, follow me class. Oh, and Sherman is going to be demonstrating for us the proper technique. The students turned to face me after Dr. King gestured my way. I felt my face heat up like a stovetop, but instead of bemused looks, the kids just nodded at me. It was kind of weird, and I wondered why no one had tried to point out my obvious lack of fitness. Let's get to it. The squared circle awaits, the giant werewolf shouted as he walked back toward the gym building. The rest of the class followed, and I tried to prepare myself for public humiliation. Chapter 3. Why are you walking so weird? Charlotte asked when we met in the quad for lunch. I had gym, I said with a grimace. I know, so why are you walking? The teacher made me do push-ups, and then I had to lift weights, and then I had to try to do pull-ups. I thought the beautiful succubus girl would have mocked me, or maybe given me one of her playful smiles and made a light-hearted joke, but she just pursed her lips. You are sore. Yeah, I said as we walked toward one of the benches. We had packed our lunches early this morning, and I took them out of my pack when we sat. I'm sorry. I can give you a massage after school, if you want. She smiled at me as she took her lunch bag from me. Massage? I asked as the pain suddenly left my body. The world started to spin, and I thought I heard harp music playing from somewhere in the school. Yes, she confirmed with a wink. I've never given anyone a massage before, but I am a succubus. So? She shrugged when her words trailed off and she opened her bag. Lunch. That would be one. Right after school. Her eyes met mine suddenly, and I kind of felt she had twin tractor beams, and my mind was falling into her. Then I remembered Dr. King. I have practice after school, I gasped. Huh. I'm on the wrestling team now. Oh, and I have good news. I think that. Did you see the target? She interrupted me. Yes. Or I think so. It was this Dr. King, the PE teacher and wrestling coach. He's a really big werewolf, but he doesn't look like a wolf man. He is more like a muscular furry man with a wolf's head, I explained, and I tried to figure out how I could get the conversation back onto her giving me a massage. I had never experienced someone rubbing my shoulders, but the idea sounded all sorts of wonderful, especially if it was Charlotte. That is him. He is the wrestling coach? I should have suspected. They like to do physical type things. The beautiful girl nodded to herself and then took a bite out of her sandwich. It was peanut butter and jelly, and I had painstakingly made hers this morning with care to have just the perfect amount of bread peanut butter jelly ratio. He is really nice. I actually kind of. Did he make you work out? She asked, and her eyes flashed dangerously. Yeah, push-ups, and he wants you to go to wrestling practice? Why? He says that I have the stuff, like the cream, or something like that. He kind of doesn't make a lot of sense when he talks, but his words got me really pumped up. How long will practice go? She asked as she took another bite of her sandwich. Till 6, I think. They are committed to it. He might let me out early since I am new. Or he might keep you until the end. Do you still have the school map on you? She asked after she finished chewing. Yeah. Here, I said after I took the paper out of my pocket and passed it to the beautiful winged girl. Charlotte stared at it for a few moments and then pointed to the gym building. If he has a car, he'll need to walk this way to get to it. It will be dark. I'll hide either here, she said as she pointed to a building on the map, or here. Her finger slid to the other side of the building. Try to get him to walk with you and take him past this building. She tapped on the map. That will make it easy. You want to do it tonight? I whispered as I leaned into her. Not really, but the sooner I finish this mission, the sooner we can get out of here and move to the next assignment. There is something strange about this school. She still had the thick-rimmed glasses on, and she raised a perfect finger to the bridge of her perfect nose to push them back on her perfect face. Ah! I tried to hide my disappointment. I knew that Satan expected us to finish tonight, but I really liked the idea of living alone with the wonderful succubus girl for a few weeks or maybe even a few months. Felt straight out of a romantic comedy anime. We could go to school together, study together, cook together, and watch TV together. The idea made my stomach tingle with joy, and I let out a bit of a sigh. It was just a romantic fantasy. What about the vampire? I remembered the caveat to Satan's plan, and I tried not to let my words come across as too excited. Just point one out at lunch, she said as she gestured to the students walking by. We'll follow him or her to their locker. I'll hack up the werewolf, then stuff his body in there. Maybe I'll follow them home after school to see where they live, and then plant pieces of dog body there. Her face upturned into a smile that reminded me that the beautiful girl was still a demon. Can you really kill him? He is powerful, and aren't alphas supposed to be the strongest? Didn't Satan say they have healing abilities and you need to use silver? I was worried that she was taking Dr. King a bit too lightly. The Wolfman was probably 2 or 3 times her size and a trained wrestling coach. Some do, some don't. I'll get the first strike. Attack first and attack last is my preferred strategy. I shouldn't need silver if I can get to his brain. You just bring him into position, get out of the way, and I'll take care of the rest. Then we can go back to hell. Okay. I sighed and then looked at my own sandwich. I'd forgotten to eat when we were talking, and now I didn't feel very hungry. My feelings were a bit mixed up. I wanted Charlotte to finish her mission so that we could return to Satan victorious, but I also wanted to spend more time with her alone. I also found myself liking this school. It was odd, but I was accustomed to either being ignored or being laughed at. Today I had kind of stumbled into all sorts of embarrassing situations and been called out in front of my peers by the 2 strange teachers, but no one had laughed at me. It was a strange experience, and I didn't know what to make of it. Do you know these girls? Charlotte's question yanked me away from my thoughts, and I looked up to see a trio of angel girls approaching. They all had wings of pure white feathers, and hair that looked to be crafted out of precious spun metal. The one in the center's hair was the longest, and the color of gold. I recognized her as the girl from my PE class, and I recalled Dr. King calling her Kristen. Hi, she said as the 3 angels stood before us. Angel kids always seemed to hang out together, which was weird because Charlotte and Satan had explained to me that none of these Earth soldiers knew what each other's race actually was. Hiya, Kristen. Yes, you remembered my name. Sherman, this is Lily and Rose, Kristen said as she gestured to the winged girls that flanked her. Lily was a bit taller than Kristen, with shoulder-length silver-colored hair. Rose was a hair shorter than Kristen, and had copper-colored hair cut short with long bangs that almost covered her eyes. The midday sun bounced off their manes like reflective glass, and it seemed to make their heads glow with a halo effect. Hi. Nice to meet you all, I said, and Kristen's friend smiled at me before they turned to look at the succubus. Oh, this is Charlotte, I said. I'm his sister, the purple-eyed girl said with a nod. We can tell, Lily said with a giggle. You both look so much alike. Are you twins? Rose asked. We don't have any twins at this school. Yes, we are, Charlotte said as she shot me a wry smile. That is neato, Kristen said. I heard a rumor that Sherman joined the wrestling team. Is that true? She asked as she looked at me. It was surprising because everyone wants to make the team. Dr. King said you didn't even need to try out. Did you wrestle at your old high school? Lily asked. I felt my mind sprint in opposite directions. Girls normally didn't talk to me, especially angel girls, and no one ever remembered my name. My brother is a great wrestler. He hasn't been able to practice because we were overseas for so long, Charlotte said with a proud smile. Oh, really? Where were you both? Kristen asked with obvious interest. Japan, Charlotte lied, and I tried to hide my amazement by swallowing my gasp. Wow, why were you over there? Lily asked. Sherman was working with one of the video game companies over there. He was consulting with their latest fighting game. He won a few tournaments. We finally came back so that he could finish school in the States. Our parents like it there, so they are going to stay. There are tournaments for video games? Rose's eyes were an aquamarine color and grew large when she asked the question. Sure. He is one of the best in the world. He had to take a break from wrestling to do it though. I'm really blabbering about him. Charlotte gave me a playful punch in the shoulder. He is famous in Japan. Wow, all three angel girls said as they turned their glittery eyes to me. I felt my face get hot, and I had trouble breathing for a few seconds. Why was Charlotte lying about me? It didn't make any sense. All it was doing was drawing attention to me. It would jeopardize our mission. It isn't that big of a deal. I tried not to let my voice squeak. We wanted to introduce ourselves and ask if we could interview you for the school podcast, Kristen asked. I thought that it was cool that you made the wrestling team, but now we have to talk about Japan. You might just be the coolest guy ever to transfer to our school. I don't really know about that. I stuttered as I scratched the back of my head. Interview? There was no way I could do an interview with her. I wasn't a professional gamer from Japan. Did Charlotte want me to lie? When is the podcast? The succubus asked. We are trying to do it in the next few days. Can you do tomorrow? The blonde angel girl asked. I don't know about. Sure he can. How about after school? Charlotte interrupted me. Great. It is in the media room. Do you know where it is? Kristen asked. No, I said as I looked down at the map. It is right here. The angel girl was instantly at my side opposite Charlotte, and leaning over to point at my map. Room 103. Can you be there? Right after school? I might have practice, I said. The girl was sitting a little too close to me and she smelled like peppermint. It is just a 30-minute interview. I'll have it all set up when you get there. You'll be able to make it to practice with plenty of time. The angel girl smiled at me. He'll be there, Charlotte said. Oh, but can you girls help us out with something? The succubus asked in a whispered tone, and the three girls leaned in toward her. It was actually a little uncomfortable because Kristen's pretty hair fell onto my shoulder and tickled my neck. We've heard great things about Dr. King. Do you know anything about him? Does he live around the school? Does he drive here in the morning? Did you ever interview him on your podcast? He is great. We have the best high school athletics program in the state. Because of him, Rose said as she nodded and flipped her copper bangs away from her eyes with a quick motion of her hand. He normally drives a yellow Jeep. It's got a fluorescent camouflage pattern on it, Lily said as she gestured to the office on the far side of the quad. It was the lot where we parked our car this morning, but I couldn't remember seeing a fluorescent painted Jeep. I often interview him on the podcast. We try to do one at the start of the winter and spring season so that we get his opinions on how all of our teams will do, Kristen said. If you look on the school's podcast website, you'll find a list of each episode. Oh, thank you. We'll listen to them all tonight. Charlotte beamed at the girls. It was perhaps the strangest sight I'd ever seen, and I had seen a lot of crazy stuff in the last few weeks. The succubus girl didn't smile a lot, and I had never seen her make friends with other girls, especially with girls. That seemed so bubbly. Okay. Kristen looked around the quad. Lunch is almost over. We like to eat in room 103 at lunch. If you both want to meet us there tomorrow, I can introduce you to everyone. Everyone? Charlotte asked with a raised eyebrow. Her facial expression made my heart race in my chest. All these angel girls were beyond beautiful and belonged on the covers of fashion magazines, but none of them made my vision been like Charlotte. Sure. We have a newspaper, a website, and most of us are in the student council. Kristen laughed, and the other two girls echoed the chuckle. We don't bite, honest. Sounds great. We'll be there, Charlotte said, and I tried once more to keep the shock from my face. Great, see you there. Have fun at practice, Sherman. Kristen smiled at me, and the other two girls made small waves before they turned to leave. Interesting, Charlotte said when they were out of hearing range. What is? Why did you lie about the wrestling? And Japan? How am I going to be able to keep my story straight? That wasn't part of the plan we had talked about. Were they angels? The succubus asked me. Yeah. How did you guess? I asked, but then I realized it was probably a dumb question. Charlotte was one of Satan's most skilled assassins, and while she couldn't see exactly what each girl really was, I imagined that she could get a hint of their secret race when she spoke to them. They like to travel in threes like in those movies. Same as the Ironies, since they are dark angels. Those three were also way too nice, and the student council was a dead giveaway. Demons and devils don't care about that shit. But you kinda lied to them about the... It won't matter. We should be done tonight, and knowing angels, they aren't going to wait until their podcast to tell everyone about you. It will mean that attention will be focused on you instead of me. The beautiful succubus smiled as she spoke, and I felt my heart spin a bit in my chest. Oh, I still don't quite see why you lied. This school is strange. Everyone remembers your name. Maybe your magic wore off. She raised her eyebrow and looked at me. The lady in the office forgot, I pointed out. True. Maybe some of the kids are powerful. I wasn't getting that from Kristen. Though, do you feel different? Like maybe your magic has weakened? I dunno. I don't feel any different. Would there be any other reason that they would all know my name? It hasn't happened before. Everyone seems to forget me. I won't forget you, Sherman, the brown-haired girl whispered to me. Ah, thanks. Do you think that they were pretty? Charlotte interrupted me. The angel girls? No, the other girls that were just here shooting you lovey-dovey eyes. That Kristen was almost sitting on your lap. Talk about making it obvious. Charlotte growled a bit. She probably thinks we are siblings. Isn't that the idea? Don't we want everyone to think we are siblings? Yes, I suppose. The winged girl sighed and stood from her seat next to me. Do you see any vampires around the school? I need a target. I looked around the campus for one of the fanged monsters. I noticed what I thought was one walking from the classroom buildings toward the office building. He wore a tweed jacket with leather elbow patches over a cream-colored dress shirt and dark blue jeans. The ensemble was completed with leather topsider boat shoes. His hair was a curly black, but his complexion gave him away. He was white as porcelain and had a reddish glow to his eyes. Knew he was a vampire without him even barring his fangs. He is one, about to enter the office. I pointed at the man. Oh good. He looks like a teacher. This will be easy. I'm going to go figure out who he is and which class he teaches. I might be able to leave the wolf's body in his office. That will make this super easy. We'll be heading back to hell before dinner. The girl seemed euphoric, but my heart only sunk. Charlotte, do you, I know that Satan wants us to finish tonight, but do you think he would let us take some time off? We just got to the apartment, and I kind of wanted to get used to the place. Nope, Satan doesn't really take time off. He won't let us either. The girl shrugged. Every time we've gone into his throne room, he is sitting there with all the other succubi all over him. It seems like he is always taking time off. I said. She hissed with a finger to her lips. He might be listening to us. He can do that? I squeaked. I don't know. Maybe. We shouldn't be talking about that stuff in the open. Anyway, she gestured to the quad. We have a job to do. The reward for doing well will be more work. If we do poorly, well, let's just do well. Okay. Yeah, I said. I would want that. I thought she whispered softly, but I couldn't quite hear her over the crowded murmur of the quad. I didn't hear you. What did you say? I asked with interest. I'm going to go walk into the office and see if I can find out more about that vampire teacher. If I don't see you before your wrestling practice, I'll see you when you bring the alpha to the ambush area. Make sure you get out of my way when I attack and don't get involved in the fight. He can kill you with a flick of his finger. Do you understand the plan? She asked, and her purple eyes glowed a bit. I think so. I just go to practice and then get him to follow me by the building. I pointed at the map at the ambush spot. What if I can't get him to come with me? Just strike up a conversation or something. I dunno. He's a jock meathead. Ask him about his championships and trophies or something. Trust me, these kind of guys just want to talk about themselves all the time, especially washed-up teachers. I don't think he is really washed up. Dr. King seems muscular, I whispered. If he was strong, why would he be teaching physical education at a high school? She asked with a shrug. I dunno, but he is an alpha. Aren't they supposed to be strong? Biggest fish in a small pond? I'm not worried, Sherman. You shouldn't be. Either. Just bring him to that spot and get out of my way so I can work. Understand? She asked. Yeah, I guess. Good. I'm going to go figure out who this vampire teacher is. See you later. Tonight. The brown-haired succubus gave me a small smile and an even smaller wave, and then she turned to stroll toward the office on the far side of the quad. Watched her walk for a few moments, but even though the sight of her wonderful backside should have made me feel happy, I couldn't fight the dread filling my stomach. Her plan seemed much too simple to work. But then again, Charlotte was a professional succubus assassin and I was just a guy that was good at video games. I was probably making too big of a deal out of Dr. King's muscles. An obvious power. I had seen Charlotte fight plenty of times and she could handle herself. Except for the few times she hadn't been able to handle herself. The dark angel, Ashley, had absolutely scared my friend, and the Rakshas's tiger demon, Devaya, had almost killed Charlotte when we tried to escape. Both of those times my succubus partner had fought them in a fair fight though, and this time Charlotte was planning on making a surprise strike against Dr. King. Would probably be okay. Or so I hoped. I didn't want the beautiful succubus girl to get hurt again. And I also didn't want to do that podcast tomorrow. Maybe that was the real reason that Charlotte had told Kristen that I would do it? The succubus might have just been stringing the angel girl along to see her reaction. Or mine. The idea sounded all sorts of manipulative, but then again she was a demon. Chapter 4. I walked into the classroom part of the gym, a few minutes before practice was supposed to start. I didn't see any students, but I heard the distant echo of conversation from the boys' locker room to the side. It wasn't clear exactly what I was supposed to do at practice, so I made my way toward Dr. King's office. Before I could get there, both the massive orc and the big werewolf stepped out of the room. They were both giant men monsters, but their size appeared to be magnified. When they stood next to each other, they seemed to take up half of the classroom's empty space with their shoulders, muscles, and fighting presence. The first light of the dawn reveals the soul of the true warrior of the gods. When he rises from the ashes of the earth, he hungers for fresh blood and the endless drug of victory. The orc's voice was somehow whispered but intense. At the same time, he leveled a large finger at me and continued. Are you prepared to join the gods of earth and the stars as a true champion of valor? Are you ready to feel the blood of your enemies flow from the fiery hot molten magma where your struggling bodies have been tossed? Oh yeah, I think Sherman is ready. Look at the battle stance. He's got the cream. Oh yeah, I can see it. He'll work hard. No showboating or grandstanding. He'll do what needs to be done when he needs to do it. Just like the hawk that goes out into the storm to find the duck dressed as a chicken. Sherman is going to be the slippery monkey. Yeah. Dr. King nodded at me. The two men took one single step and it carried them across the whole classroom to stand next to me. The warrior needs to be armored before battle. The gods of earth, stars, and sky demand tribute from the newly birthed combatant. Mr. Helsig touched me on the shoulder and then held out a wrestling uniform with his other hand. The suit was the school colors, and I took it from him with trembling hands. You're gonna need to protect the manly bits and pieces as well. Dr. King handed me a clear plastic bag. Inside was a jockstrap and plastic ear protecting armor. The training will destroy your mind, body, and soul. But then you will be reborn as the champion of your own universe. It will make you into the man that you have always dreamed that you wanted to be. You should make haste. The penalty for being late to your destruction only brings more destruction. The orc said as he gestured to the locker room behind me. Yeah. So we'll be starting in 5 minutes. Meet out on the mats and we'll do a warm-up. Oh yeah. Dr. King nodded at me. Okay, I said as I looked down at the equipment they passed me before I walked into the locker room. There were about 20 boys in the room, and most of them had finished getting changed already. A few of them nodded to me, but they all seemed to be having a heated debate about who the prettiest girl at school was, and they didn't seem interested in halting their conversation to introduce themselves. It was probably for the best. I didn't like the idea of changing in front of them, and I also wasn't looking for friends. We'd be gone from the school tonight if things went according to plan. I opened my locker and took off my clothes as quickly as I could. I had kind of avoided the whole getting naked in a locker room full of guys thing at my previous high school because my teachers had given me a pass to just sit and read. When I had changed this morning, the other students had already left, so I didn't have to worry about them seeing me. So this was the first time anyone, other than my parents, had ever seen me naked, and my hands trembled as I took off my underwear. I half expected someone to snicker or to laugh or call out how weak I looked, but none of the other boys seemed to even notice me, and I got the athletic cup on with only a few seconds of awkward fumbling. As soon as the thing was strapped onto me, I squirmed into the tight uniform and then looked at the weird half helmet that was supposed to go over my ears. The device had what looked like 8 straps, and I couldn't figure out how to get it over my head. "I can help you. Sherman, right?" one of the boys asked. He was shaped like a devil with rocky skin, a long tail, small wings, and an ugly horned head. But he lacked the glow to his eyes and didn't reek of evil. I guessed that he was a gargoyle. "Yeah, thanks," I said as he took the helmet from me. The gray-skinned monster boy twisted the device in his fingers and then passed back to me. "Just put your head through there and it will fit. You might have to adjust the bottom clasp to make it tighter." "Thanks," I said as I took it back from him. "No problem. I'm surprised that you don't know how to put it on. I heard you were some sort of state champ from another school." He shot me a toothy smile that I guess was supposed to be nice, but his razor teeth made him look like something out of a gothic nightmare. "Where did you hear that?" I asked with surprise. "Everyone at school is talking about it. I'm excited to see what you can do at practice." Geez. I forced a smile to my face that I was sure looked more like a grimace. "I'm not really good. I don't know how that rumor started." "Really? Dr. King didn't even have you try out. Everyone at school is saying that you were a state champion, but then you quit to play video games in Japan." The gargoyle kid spoke with amazement, and a few of the other boys on the team stopped their conversation so that they could hear us. I'm not that good at wrestling. I think you are all going to be disappointed. I'm pretty good at video games, though." "We gotta get in there," one of the boys hissed from the other side of my locker, and we all shuffled out into the main area of the gymnasium. The gym was the typical high school setup. There were 6 large mats placed on the wood floor, and the stands, basketball hoops, and dodgeball cages had all been pushed or swung away from the center area. Dr. King and Mr. Helsig were already at the center mat, and the 2 men were engaged in a whispered discussion. "Good afternoon, team," Dr. King said when we all moved to the side of the mat. "Did you all meet Sherman? He's got the cream and will be working in the 106 class. I'm thinking that he's going to be a real chicken hawk and do the things that need to be done when they need the doing." "Yeah." The werewolf man touched the sides of his ski goggle-looking sunglasses when he spoke. "Thanks for joining the team," the gathered boys all said in scattered replies. They were a complete mismatch of races. Gargoyle, elf, dwarf, zombie, tiger man, lizard man, Sasquatch, angel, an insect man with 2 arms on each side, and even a huge ogre were present. "Coach Helsig is going to be leading you all in a short warm-up exercise. Then I'm going to be making an assessment of our new team member while the rest of you split into some drills that Coach Helsig will lead. Yeah, let's get going." The werewolf clapped his hands, and we all turned to the massive orc man. "Warriors, we will run." The orc gestured for us to stand up, and then he led us around one of the large mat circles in a jog. After a few laps around, I started to feel my heart hammering in my chest, and then the orc shouted at us to shuffle sideways. I saw the other boys turn to face the inside of the circle, and they made sideways skipping jumps to keep the same jogging speed. Followed their movements and almost tripped a few times when my clumsy feet collided together. Fortunately, I didn't fall, and I soon had figured out a somewhat graceful way to do the movement. Then we switched directions by facing away from the circle, and I kind of had to relearn the shuffle with my left foot in the lead. When I was facing away from the group, I saw that Dr. King was actually doing the same warm-up exercises as the boys were. He was just a few feet outside of the circle so that we wouldn't be disturbed by his presence. Thought it was kind of cool that he was working out with his students, and I felt a pang of remorse when I remembered that Charlotte would kill him in a few short hours. The alpha werewolf seemed like a nice guy, and I kind of didn't want him to die. The orc switched back to running, but then he lifted his arms up in the air with a series of pumping motions when each of his feet landed. The boys all mirrored his movements, even the Ant-Man, who did it with all 6 of his arms. It was getting a bit hard to breathe when I threw up my arms, and I was sucking in air with ragged gasps of pain. Coach Helsig moved sideways again, and he alternated from holding his hands in the air high over his head to slamming them down on the mat with a thunderous clap. The rest of the boys were prepared for the motion, and they fell into a synchronized movement so that they slapped the ground at exactly the same moment as the orc. I tried to keep up the pace with them, but my lungs were screaming, and my slap against the ground seemed to fall half a second after everyone else's, no matter how much I tried to speed up my movements. The orc moved into the center of the circle, and then lowered himself onto his back. The rest of the team followed his movement to the ground, and I saw them push up with the flat of their hands against the map. This bent their backs into an N shape with their stomachs pointing to the ceiling of the gym. Tried to do the movement a second after I saw them, and my spine protested with a rapid fire of cracks along its length. The orc lowered his back to the ground and then performed the tortuous movement again. I grunted with the effort, but my back didn't snap again, and I felt my stomach thrust up into the air. We did it 3 more times, and then the orc rolled to lie on his belly. We followed his movement, and the muscular man lifted his arms and legs away from the mat like he was Superman. We all held the position for a few moments, and my arms started shaking. When I felt like I couldn't hold them for another second, he lowered them to the ground to rest for a few moments. Then he repeated the motion, and I wanted to cry. Every muscle in my body was screaming at me already for the work I had done in PE, and this was just compounding the agony. Stretch out the muscles. The gods don't get cramps. They only get the surge of power that comes from destroying their enemies on the field of battle. The orc was on his feet now, and was pulling his arm across his broad chest to stretch out his shoulders. The next 10 minutes were actually enjoyable. The coach led us through some gentle stretches that loosened all of my aching muscles. It was over too soon. And then he paired the team up for sparring. Star Conqueror, your place is with Dr. King. He'll be teaching you about the endless battles raging between the forces inside your own body, soul, and mind. This is the kind of battle that most men lose, but not you. No, you will rise to defeat the child in your soul and emerge as a powerful man-god fit for worship. The orc raised his green arms in the air while he shouted, and he clenched his fists together when he dramatically brought them down at the end of his short monologue. Yeah, let's see what kind of stuff you've got inside of you. I'm thinking it is the cream of the crop, but it could be the chocolate in the pudding or the sinew of the muscle. Come with me. Yeah. The wolf man had walked over by me while the orc spoke, and he gestured for us to walk over to a mat on the far side of the room. We are going to start with some of the basic. Hey! There was a loud shout from the far side of the gym, and it cut off the werewolf sentence. I looked over to where the shout had originated and saw that another werewolf had entered the gym. This one was somehow bigger than Dr. King. He had blonde-colored fur instead of Dr. King's brown, but he had just as many muscles and must have stood 3 inches taller. The werewolf was shirtless but wore a tight pair of red wrestling pants on. He also had a yellow bandana around his head, and he led a group of uniformed wearing boys into our gym. At the side of the group I saw a tall muscular adult vampire. He wore a gaudy looking robe with gold embroidery over his wide body, a grease style to his blonde hair, and a smirk on his face. The combination of outfit, hair, and disgusted smile made me instantly not like the man. Woo! Look here. We've got a room full of little boys pretending they are men, the vampire said with a sneer. I don't know what you all think you are doing in my gym, but you better clear on out. Yeah, we don't need any trouble, Dr. King said as he stepped toward the newcomers. You aren't looking for trouble? Brother, I've got too much trouble. It is filling my body with the kind of vengeance that you have never known, the blonde werewolf said. He had long blonde whisker chops that fell on each side of his face. Jean, you can't be coming around here and interrupting our practice with your showboating and your grandstanding. Save it for the matches. Dr. King crossed his massive arms over his equally massive chest. That's giant Jean to you, brother. You forget my title. The larger werewolf pointed his finger at Dr. King. You enter our house without bringing an offering? You seek to anger the gods, the heavens, and the hellspawn that are just waiting to be unleashed. I tell you to go. Go now, or you shall face your doom at the hands of your betters. Mr. Helsig was standing next to Dr. King, and it was kind of hard to see past their giant shoulders. Wait just a minute. Woo. Guys, the vampire said with a much too big smile. Let's not make it ugly, okay? Well, not any uglier than you. Both are already. Woo. The boys standing behind the vampire all burst out laughing. We've just come for our trophy, so if you hand it over, we'll leave you ladies to continue with your pampering. Which trophy might you be referring to? Are you talking about the state trophy that we won last year? I seem to recall that we won that fair and square inside of the circle last year. Yeah, we beat you. Yeah, we did. Dear. King nodded over his massive shoulder, and I turned to see a tall trophy display case. The glass was practically bursting at the seams with the trophies inside, and I guessed that there were over 20 crammed in there. This year things are going to go a bit different, brother. I've been to the mountain. I went there as one man, and then I came back as another, the likes of which you have never seen. Let me tell you, brother, I'm coming to take back what is mine. That includes my trophy, and it includes my woman. The blonde wolf man's words ended with a guttural growl, and the tension in the room grew thicker. Are you still hung up on Lady Bella? She picked me, Jean. Oh yeah, she didn't pick you. She got tired of all your hot dogging and your showboating. Lady Bella wanted to be with the champ, and that is me. Yeah. I'm going to take my belt back also, Mario. It's been with you for too long, brother, and I'm here to take it all. The trophy, the belt, and my woman. When I am done with you, brother, you'll have nothing left but your misery and your pain and the knowledge that Giant Jean took it all from you. That's right. The man you used to call brother will take it all away, brother. Then I'll be leading the top wrestling program in the state. That is what the mountain has told me. The gods of the earth and sky tell me different, Coach Helsig growled as he stepped between the two werewolves. They say that we will win this next wrestling bout. They say that we will meet the hardness of the universe with our even harder souls. They say that none shall stand in our way, and that all who dare will crumble before us like castles made out of sand before the waves of the ocean. The thing is, your side just doesn't have the, how shall I say it, right stuff. Woo. Look at us, for example. The blonde vampire gestured to the boys standing behind him. Each of us here practices with the best available equipment in a state-of-the-art gym. You might say that we came from nothing. But while your program has stopped growing, the program that Giant Jean and I have built has continued to flourish. Woo. We have 40 strapping young men on our team, and they have all made the same cut that you've established for your program. We have the latest in sports technology and have profiled each of our team members for optimal diet, exercise, training regimen, and style. It is the perfect combination of art and science. The boys behind the vampire were smiling, and they looked at the man with adoration. More grandstanding and showboating. It is what is inside that counts, not the latest technology or some fancy routine. Yeah, we work with our boys to bring out their full potential. Our victories come from their hearts, not from science or drug enhancements. Yeah, Dr. King said with a broad gesture of his arms towards my new teammates. Brother, are you claiming that we are a bunch of cheaters that are using performance-enhancing drugs? The larger werewolf seethed the question, and he took a step forward. No, I'm saying that any of the boys on my team can out-wrestle any of yours. With their brains, hearts, and bodies. Yeah, they don't need no fancy schmancy technology. Just hard work and belief in themselves. Yeah, now we've got practice to get back to, and I think you would be better served by less grandstanding and showboating. 'Cause my boys are going to be able to settle this in the ring, Dr. King said, and I could tell he was trying his best not to attack the larger werewolf. You said that any of the boys on your team can beat any of ours? The vampire asked with a raised eyebrow. I did say that, yeah. Now you all should leave, so. Brother, your words are lies that you don't stand behind, the other werewolf said. What did you just say? You calling me a liar? In front of my team? I am, brother. I'm calling you a liar because you don't think that any of your boys can beat mine. I just said that anyone can. Yeah, I don't appreciate your words, Jean. Now, get out of here, or your boys are going to see me turn you into a pretzel. Yeah. Fine, brother. I choose. The giant blonde werewolf looked across the gym at the rest of the team, then his yellow wolf eyes settled on me and he pointed with a clawed finger. That one. He looks like a lost puppy. The boys on the other team all burst into laughter, but my teammates didn't share any of their mirth. Choose for what? Dr. King asked. To tussle against Albert in a friendly match, Jean said as he beckoned with his furry paw. A 6-foot-tall human stepped up next to the werewolf. The boy actually looked like Superman. He had thick black hair, a chiseled chin, bright blue eyes, and the kind of muscles that a superhero would carry on their frame. I was somewhat surprised that he was actually human since I didn't see many of them. Sherman is new to the team, and Albert is your star wrestler. That hardly seems like a fair matchup. Yeah, Dr. King said as he shook his head. This is why I think you are a liar, brother. You tell me that I am a hot dog. Then you make these claims that you can't back up. Seems to me that you are the real grandstander. You are the one with the fancy belt and the trophies that you won't stop talking about. Then I try to call you out on it and you make excuses. You're a liar, brother. Giant Jean shook his head and let out a long growl. You call me a liar again, and your boys will be cleaning bits and pieces of you and your boyfriend off my gym ceiling. Yeah. Now Sherman is new to the team, but he has heart and he's a hard worker. If you bring me someone in his weight class, I'm confident in his abilities. Yeah. But what you are proposing isn't regulation, and you said any of your boys could beat any of mine. I choose these two. Few are afraid to see them match. I'd understand, brother. Since you are afraid of making false claims. Jean shook his head, and Albert shot me an evil-looking smile. The gods will grant us strength and allow us the power of the earth so that we will crush you. Coach Helsig's voice was an intense growl, and it looked like his body was struggling with the temptation of attacking the other werewolf. Splendid, the vampire said. So when our boy here submits yours, you will hand over your trophy and belt. That wasn't part of any of this. The trophy belongs to the school, and my belt belongs to me. Yeah. The gods of earth and sky demand equal tribute from our opponents. You can't have something for nothing. It goes against the will of the gods. Coach Helsig pointed at Jean as he spoke. My friend makes a good point. Yeah. I'm getting the short end of the deal here. So I've got a counter-offer for you. If my boy Sherman wins, then you too. Dr. King pointed at both the vampire and the other werewolf. Can't enter your school into any wrestling tournaments for the next 3 years. Yeah. The boys on the other team gasped and looks of panic flooded their faces. The vampire and blonde werewolf didn't seem stunned by Dr. King's demand, however, and I saw the vampire actually smile. Ha! Our boy against that. He pointed his finger at me, and I felt my stomach turn to ice. This isn't much of a wager. We'll take the deal, brother, Jean agreed with a chuckle. Fine then. Now get out of my gym. Yeah. We'll settle this a week before the first tournament, that way you have plenty of time to cancel your buses. Yeah. I'll see you then, Mario. Tell Lady Bella I said hi. The larger werewolf coughed out an evil laugh, and then directed his boys to exit out the door. As soon as the other team left our gym, the boys began to shout their questions to our coaches. Dr. King raised his hands to quiet them, and then he took a deep breath. I'm sorry about that, boys. Yeah, I think that most of you know that Jean and I have a bit of a history. We were both dating the same girl in college, and Lady Bella decided to marry me when I started med school. Yeah, Jean's a sour grape and a hot dogger. He's been trying to get a rise out of me for the last 10 years. This is a new low, though, even for him. He brought his boys into our feud, and he brought you all into it. Yeah. Don't worry, Dr. King. We all have your back. The gargoyle boy that had helped me figure out my ear guard said. I appreciate it, boys. Oh yeah, I'm not too worried about my belt or the school's trophy. I'm just worried about our honor. The match isn't fair, and we only have a limited amount of time to get Sherman here in shape. Yeah. My teammates and the two coaches turned to look at me, and I felt the pressure of the match fall upon my shoulders. I don't know how I am supposed to beat that Albert guy. He's twice my size, I said with a quivering voice. Don't worry about it, Sherman. We are going to teach you everything you need. You'll have to put in a lot of extra hours. Yeah, but I know you've got the cream and you can pin that guy with no problem, Dr. King said with a terrifying wolf smile. Really? You think so? How long do we have to train? I asked, but then I recalled that Charlotte was going to murder the werewolf tonight, and then we would be out of the school. None of this actually mattered, and I felt most of the terror leave my stomach. But I also felt kinda bad for my teammates. They had all seemed nice and I didn't know what would happen without Dr. King leading the team. Coach Helsig seemed capable, so maybe it wouldn't be that bad. First tournament is in 4 weeks, so we have 3 to get you in fighting condition. It won't be easy, but I know you've got the pudding to fly like a chicken hawk. 3 weeks? I asked with a wince. Would you mind starting tomorrow? I'm a little winded from the warm-up. The group laughed and the gargoyle boy slapped me on the back. The star champion sees no danger, just an opportunity to mock our opponents. The gods will smile upon his victory and infuse our spirits with the power of the earth, Mr. Helsig said as he raised his arms. The rest of the boys laughed again, and I tried to bring a smile to my face. I didn't want Dr. King to die, but I also didn't want to wrestle that Superman-looking kid. I guess it was good that Charlotte and I were leaving tonight. All I had to do was get the werewolf to where she was waiting, and all the beautiful succubus girl had to do was end him. I just hoped neither of us would fail tonight.